Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We're here for another episode of the Property Investment Australia podcast. I am one of your hosts, Lachlan, Vidler, and as always, Will Sanchez sits across from me. Will, what's going on, mate? How are you?
Pretty good. How's things? Getting
Good,
excited?
mate. We've got an awesome episode for everyone today, and we're going to be talking about the do's and the don'ts of investing in affordable markets. And I think this is a really good. I really like this topic because, instinctively a lot of us probably think, I got to buy in Sydney, or I got to buy in Brisbane, or not right this second, but I got to buy in Melbourne, whatever it might be. But we know that there's lots of other markets out there, and often, not always, right, but often they could be thought of more as like affordable markets. Now we've got differences. Like you think the Newcastle market is probably verging on being more expensive than the Melbourne market at the moment. But
yeah, I was gonna say,
but a lot, once you start to get outside the capitals into fully fledged big cities, or often big cities, but just not capitals, they can be considered more affordable markets. And I'm sure you've seen that
it's
yourself.
the entry point, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. So we've got an awesome episode to go through there. I think that I think it's a really good time to talk about it as well, because it's getting harder and harder for some people to buy property, and going and buying your $1 million house in Sydney or in Brisbane or whatever is not viable for literally the vast majority of people.
Yeah.
So if you want to start to grow your wealth, you've got to think about markets outside of that.
I can attest to that.
You can attest to that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen us do lots of deals, right? You've seen us buying big cities, you've seen us buying regional cities, you've seen us buy all over the place, and you've also seen, I guess, the wealth that's been generated by our clients just in particular.
No, I remember when you start buying, I think W Wave, I think you paid $390 something, 400,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah,
Back then.
it's
Try to find similar property now.
Man, you try and find a $390
It's
deal in
crazy.
any market
It's
anywhere
crazy.
these days. It's good, So,
Yeah.
but mate, well, look, I thought a good place to start would be maybe just trying to define like what an affordable market is. If you're happy for me to,
Yeah.
start there.
Bring it on.
Bring it on.
please. Yeah.
Bring it on. So, like, I guess there's no real definition to this, right? There's no real definition, and there's no, this number means it's this, or that number means it's that. But for me, the way that I try to think about an affordable market is, typically it's got a lower entry price, right? That's probably in the name, an affordable market, right? It's got to be affordable. So it's typically characterized by the idea that it does have a lower entry price. And then typically as well, it's not going to be a capital city either, right? And that's because most capital cities, it's where the majority of the population lives, so naturally the price is higher. It doesn't mean it's a better investment, but it means it's higher.
Important point.
Important point, right? And then affordable markets, often you'll see that there's some aspect of them that's really starting to grow or gentrify or something like that, right? Not necessarily, but there's usually something topical at that time. I guess, something we'll get into a little bit later, but, it's then really thinking about whether that's just a short-term thing or a long-term thing, but there's usually something that's kind of pushing it along that brings it to the forefront for people to have a think about, that makes them go, maybe this is an opportunity. So
it's a potential.
Yeah, it's potential.
Yeah.
Potential. So that's the way that I tend to think about it. I mean, it's, but there's no one definition. I mean, is there anything you can think of missed there?
Nah, well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is a lower sort of entry level.
That
I
entry
would say.
level? Yeah. And I think that's, it's a key part, right? Like you look at
Because lower entry level also it just means it's easier to get in as opposed to big cities and stuff like that, right? But I can't think of a definition.
Yeah.
That sort of says this is this, this is that.
Yeah.
It's just a lower entry point, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
And I think like, and I mean, man, you're the expert on this, but like,
Or am I?
well, you think if you got a couple,
Mm-hmm.
and even if they've got no kids, just a regular couple, and they both earn a solid income, like let's say they're on 80 to 100 grand each, which puts you at, verging a 200K household income. Like these days, with where rates are sitting, like it's like, it's not.
But when you think of it, it's average.
Exactly.
Average.
You're probably still
crazy.
not buying the $1 million property on
It's
that.
crazy, yeah. Yeah, if you don't have kids, maybe you still are because your living expenses are a lot lower. But
Yeah.
when it comes, kids come
got
into
kids,
play, then you've got your childcare centers
Yep.
and the likes. Things just become
Expensive.
very expensive. I can
was gonna
also
say-
attest to that.
I was thinking, do I drop that in and go, man, I bet you know exactly how that is.
Yeah, keeping the fridge full is
Keeping the fridge full.
is a difficult task even for Tom Cruise.
Even for Tom Cruise.
Mission impossible there, my friend.
I was going to say, man, my fridge is empty. I mean, my fridge is empty because I'm barely ever home, but a full fridge, it's because what, you got 3 kids, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a lot of room in the fridge.
Absolutely.
It's affordable markets are necessary for you.
It's never a dull day, I can tell you that.
Well, if that's what an affordable market is, I mean, I'm sure that most people listening are then going, all right, well, that's great. Like, what do we need to look at though? Like, how do we find them? What do we need to look at? How do we think about whether they may or may not be a good investment?
But you mentioned Newcastle in the beginning of the conversation.
I did.
I quite like it because I'm not too far from them.
Yeah.
And I remember when I started looking, I actually looked at Newcastle as well as an option.
Yeah.
It was a bit further away from the office, but the prices were somewhat competitive, and they were okay.
Yeah.
But now, not long,
insane.
It's insane. It's like you look at three bedroom property, 4 bedroom property. It's expensive. It's expensive, very expensive.
Yeah. Oh man, I know of a person who bought a house there, this year or last year. So pretty recent is I guess where I'm going with it. Pretty recent. And don't get me wrong, nice house. Like we're not talking about just an average house, but it's certainly not. I would say, from what I've seen from photos and stuff, definitely not like a McMansion either or anything like that. Like it's still, it's a big family home, but certainly not, like Chris Hemsworth Byron Bay type of property. And it was bought in a nice part of Newcastle as well. So I'm putting a lot of caveats on this story. But they paid like $3.5 million.
3.5.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Which you think, like $3.5 million, even in Sydney, like if you went and spent $3.5 million in Sydney,
that's a good property.
That still gets you a pretty decent property. Like you could probably still buy a nice like semi in the east for
it's a good
that
price.
or something.
It's a good price. Come on.
Yeah. So I guess my point of this is that I mentioned Newcastle, but like you probably couldn't really call Newcastle an affordable market.
Yeah. Well, not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah. Like it's really.
Yeah, I remember I did a security guarantee once there about 7 years ago.
Yeah.
The property was valued at about 500.
Yeah.
Back then, it was a 3-bedroom property.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I'm interested to see what the price would be like at the moment for that property. It's in Caves Beach as well, which is which is a nice area.
Yeah. It's it's funny, isn't it? It's like when you see the way things go, and people always sit there and they go, how can prices get more expensive, or how can this happen, or how can that happen? And it does, and it always has, and it always will. It just keeps going, everywhere.
Yeah,
like
I love the examples because I was talking to a customer today, actually.
Today,
yeah, and she's looking to buy a 1-bedroom unit in Petersham. Yeah. She doesn't know anymore. She doesn't know anymore what to do. But
tell her to listen to the podcast about investing in apartments.
Yeah, no, I know, but I think for her, it's exactly that. So the entry point, right? But when you look at the property itself, the property is going for around 660 at the moment.
Yeah,
I'm not too sure if it's going to be sold for that or more.
Yeah,
but 1 bedroom.
Yeah,
like no car space. Like it's just a good location. That's all, right? A very small. And the property was sold 2 years ago, 200,000 less. So think about that, 200,000 in a 1-bedroom apartment in 2 years.
I know, yeah.
When you think about that, geez, that's a lot.
But it then makes you think, if you actually went and constructively deployed that money into a much better performing investment asset, what could you do in 2 years?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also too, as an exit strategy. Yeah. When you think about that, how easy is it to sell a 1-bedroom property, right? It's a bit more complicated than just a 2-bedder.
Definitely.
Things like this, like a studio. It's more niche-y.
Yeah. For sure.
If you consider it, but it just came to my mind.
Yeah, that's all right. We love our tangents that we take. Yeah. Well, if we get back on with the notes that we got written here, because I'm sure everyone's sitting there going, "Oh, Will's off on it again." No. But I think I just want to bring it back to like really trying to help break down, what people can look at when they're really trying to understand whether or not something is an affordable market. Because I think it's all good and well for us to sit here and, like blow hot air and talk about the stuff, but we're definitely not trying to sit here and like hold back the secret sauce or anything. I mean, property is simple but extraordinarily complicated at the same time. And I think just
lots of variables.
Exactly right. And like and I guess the big part is that it's not school where there's a textbook and you flip to the back for the answers and then you try, and if you get it wrong you can then have a look at them. There's no single answer, and one set of data or one metric or one this or one that might tell one story, and then real world might not pan out that way. So that's why I thought maybe we can just talk them through a little bit of things that we might look at. Like I know that's what we do at Atlas when we look through some of this stuff, but I'd say any intelligent investor looks through these things. So for me, one of the first key things to look at is the infrastructure of an area, right? Beautiful. And I want to make it clear, infrastructure in and of itself, or investment into infrastructure in and of itself, is not some big win that makes an area desirable to go to. And the reason I say that, and I want to call it out, is because you go and look and you see, especially a lot of like house and land package spruikers and this and that, whenever they talk about why an area is good, they go, oh yeah, growing infrastructure and this and that. That's not the golden ticket to things being good, right? It's a factor, but it's certainly not a golden ticket, right? So when we look at infrastructure, the way that I think about it is, firstly, you've got what's your major infrastructure there, right? So when we're talking about major infrastructure, the reason why it's really important is if you've got large, big, major infrastructure there,
like airports,
trains, things like that, it has been built because there is a need from the people. And if there are more people in an area, it means it's a good indication that there's longevity there, right? And that there is reason for people to be there. Because if you've got an area with 5,000 people versus an area with 50,000 people, the 50,000 people area is more likely to have stability, right?
Badger's Creek, yeah.
Did you say Badger's Creek?
Yeah.
We cannot open that can of worms in this episode. So you want to look at that major infrastructure first, because that is going to help to tell you, what has been the view of government and business in this area in the past, because it required investment to get there. And then you can see that come to fruition. And you can also see like how successful that has been. Like, is that airport now like a major hub for that area of the country? And you get people coming from all around to come there. And then when they come there, they come the night before. So they stay in the city. They put money through the town or the city, hotels, food, that. They then come back. They stay another night. There's then, like you see, like there's a pathway to this. A flow on, exactly right. Yep. So you got major and then you got minor, right? So your minor infrastructure is your small stuff, right? Like, what do the local shops look like? Like schools are an interesting one. I guess you could look at it as major or minor, but like what are the schools like? Where are they? Is there more schools coming, right? What are the roads like? Is there a lot of, is it like one main road through the center of town? Is there a lot of major roads? Is it a bit
Do you look at a number of approvals in the area, or?
I'd say I look at that more when we get to the housing market side rather than the infrastructure side itself. Yeah. So, so you're looking at just those more minor sort of development type activities, not to do with the housing market, but more towards the
Got it.
like business and sort of like public services and that sort of thing, right? So then the third thing that I think is really important to look at is then to also understand, what is the investment in infrastructure looking like? So I mentioned before, when you look at infrastructure today, you can see how business and government looked at that area in the past, because they wouldn't have invested if they didn't think that there was a good reason to. But also looking at what does investment look like in the current day, right? And you can source that through government sites, through news websites, through like community groups. Like, there's lots of different ways to kind of find out that information. But like, I guess the common sense approach is, if there's good investment coming in, like they're building big new business parks, they're building hospitals, they're building public transport.
Hospitals a good one.
Hospitals. Yeah, there you go. It's probably talking again about major infrastructure. If they're investing in schools, like all that type of stuff. If that investment is there and coming, you also know that some people who are smart, probably smarter than you and I, they have a plan, right? And there's a reason why that money is getting poured into that area. And that can help just give you some indications of, okay, Well, yes, it might be an affordable market, but where are all these people going to live? Like, what are all these people going to do for work? You know, what's gonna happen to the area? And if all that's going on, maybe it is an indicator
Mm-hmm.
that it could be a market worthwhile going towards.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that's infrastructure.
That's pretty good. I like it.
You like it?
Yep. Yep.
I guess again, like I really want to emphasize it, right? Like there is no silver bullet here. There's no golden goose. There's no silver bullet. It's about synthesizing, bringing together different pieces of information, and we've still got more to obviously talk about. But I think too often, like man, the amount of
There's
times
a lot of variables
yeah,
in this, so
I was
to
going to
make
say
a decision.
the amount of times I've had a client work with us, and then maybe we say, oh, we want to go into this area for you, and then they start trying to like make comments around one really niche particular aspect of it, like let's say infrastructure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they say it from the point of view of like whatever it is that they're saying, like either there's not enough or there's too much or the type is wrong or something like that. It's almost like they believe like that is the one and only answer.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's not enough, that suddenly means the whole area can't perform well.
They listen to one thing.
Exactly right.
And they take it for
exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's something, I can probably
It happens, huh?
passionately talk about very, for hours and hours.
I can see that it happens. It's happened a few times.
So we've got infrastructure, right? Now, I guess one of the second things to look at is understanding the industries of employment in the area, right? So the first key part is what are the major industries that are employing people there? So what's the type? So, is it health and is it healthcare, right? Is it
Mm-hmm.
social services? Is it mining? Is it hospitality? Is it retail? Is it professional?
Tourism,
Is it tourism? Yeah, that's another good one, right? You have to understand what are the major industries of employment, because not only will that help you understand who these people are, if you look at the trends in it, it can also help you understand like maybe this used to be one way and now it's transitioned this way, and do we like that it's transitioned that way, or is it transitioning into a worse sort of employment industries sort of situation? I mean, the classic one is like mining, like
Mm-hmm.
if mining is a major employer, that itself isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? Because maybe you've then got your second industry, maybe mine is like 10 or 12%, right, of the population. But then maybe the second thing is like 9 or 10%.
Maintenance for mining vehicles.
No, I'm going a different way.
Is that where you're going?
No, I'm going a different way. Maybe it's a totally different industry and it's completely unrelated to mining.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, yeah, cool. Like mining is obviously really important, but then this industry is equally as important. And then your third one is close enough to that as well. So you go, yeah, mining's a factor, but there's also 2 and 3 and 4 other industries that are equally as important, right?
Mm-hmm. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, or what you were saying, you can go the same way. And I guess what we're talking about here is like diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Is you can go the other way, which is
he's saying that the more diversity, obviously, the better. Because you're not relying on just one.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
And going off the back of what you were saying before, you can have the reverse of what I was saying, which is that you might have number 1 is mining, but then number 2 and number 3 and number 4 are industries so closely related to mining, or the provision of services to the people that live there, or whatever it might be, that if the mine was to go under, yeah, cool, mining's only like 12% or something, or 11%. But then when you actually add up all the other industries, mining and its brother and sister industries make up 40%. So if the mine goes down, 40% of the towns or cities gone, right?
Yeah,
so you really got to understand the diversity of that and then how they link together, because
when I look at the amount of variables, I just think, well, to make a decision by yourself, you got to be looking at so many different things. Like if you're just a normal investor without using someone else's expertise.
Absolutely. With what you just said, I got so excited that I spilt the water that I was drinking. So anyone who watches the video of it will see me spill that water. Mate, I totally agree with you, right? Like it's, and like when people are leading their own lives, doing their own jobs, and they're trying to bang this on top of it without much experience, like you can see it's obviously quite complicated to pick that apart. And the best and worst part is, again, there's no magical answer. Like you can look at all these things, but if you don't really understand what it's saying, how the picture is drawn together. Like it's hard, right? So yes, that's the second thing I would look at, which is those industries of employment, right?
I like that.
You like that?
Yeah.
Well, I reckon you like the third one too, which links into the second one, which is the overall demographics, right? So you really want to understand like who lives there, and that links into that employment conversation, because you want to understand, are they tradies? Are they retail workers? Are they tourist providers? Are they professionals? Are they medicos? Like what?
Yeah, much like Newtown, for example, we've got RPA there.
Yeah.
Then there's lots of professionals.
Exactly right.
Yeah, exactly. Newtown in Sydney for the listeners.
Well, there's different new towns. There's
one in Queensland.
There's another one in Queensland, and I think there might be one more somewhere in the country. But yeah, so you really want to understand those demographics, because if, for example, you've got demographics that are gentrifying, and so they're changing, it's becoming more wealthy, more affluent, things like that. More money is going to mean more investment. It's going to mean people want to spend more in the economy. They want to make things look nicer, things of that nature, which in turn is going to have a positive impact, right? Or it should.
Yeah.
So
again, that happened to Newtown as well.
That did happen to Newtown. I mean, you think like Redfern, Newtown, that whole inner west.
Redfern, yes.
That sort of like outer CBD to inner west
Glebe,
type area.
Glebe, nice little,
Yeah. It's but like you see it everywhere. Like I would say on the balance, almost all areas of Australia are gentrifying, because people who can't afford to buy, which is a lot of people, implicitly there is, I guess, a bit of a scenario of they can't afford to because they don't have enough money, right? So it means the people who can have more money, which means that they would typically be more affluent, which means that they're going to attract other people of a similar profile, at least of an economic profile, and then that's going to continue to spread, right? So that's why most areas in Australia are actually starting to gentrify, because a lot of people are struggling, right? Like there's a lot of people out there who are struggling, and therefore they get, it gets pushed, So demographics, like really, really important. You got to understand the who, you got to understand what they do, you got to understand where they came from, what they might be looking to do. And I guess a key part of that is then, and it's something that comes up all the time, is understand, what sort of crime, for example, might go on there. So a lot of councils or government websites, state governments might allow you to see crime stats. But one thing I really want to emphasize is, I get this question all the time, like, what's the crime rate there, or thing? Like, firstly, there's not really a crime rate. Like, maybe you could talk about like incidents per 1,000 people, something like that, but it's really not, I think, the best measure. Crime is broken down into the different types of crime. And that's why it's so important to understand what it is. So, for example, you might go to like a government website and it shows that there was like, I don't know, let's say it said 300 offences, right? 300 offences in the last 12 months in this suburb, right? And then you go look at a map, and on the map it says the 300 on your suburb, and then the suburb next to it says there was 20, and the suburb next to that says there was 25, and the suburb next to that says 10, and you look around the suburb you're looking to buy in, it's got 300 compared to the ones nearby, and you go, oh God, like this is a no-no. This is a no-no, right? But what if I was to say, you go click on that suburb, you see in that suburb there's a massive Westfield, and in that massive and then when you actually go and look at where the crime has occurred within that suburb, of the 300,
Baker's
295 is
Baker's Delight.
It's Baker's Delight in Westfield, right? But you see that it's all centered on this shopping center, and then when you go and look at it, you also see it's like quite petty crime, like theft, things of that nature. Suddenly, because you've actually gone in and interpreted it better rather than just going
as a given,
there's 300, oh my God, can't go there. You understand, well, no, it's perfectly fine. Like, it's a shopping center, it's a Westfield.
Maybe it's a reason to investigate a little bit further. If you look at the surroundings and everything's like 20, 25, and all of a sudden there's another one that says 300. Should you investigate that?
Yep. I could not agree more, right? I couldn't agree more. But that's the thing, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. Or
because I looked at that sort of stat before we moved to the Central Coast.
Oh, there's some crime up on the Central Coast.
Because we looked at because we looked at so many different areas, man. So many. But it's funny because a friend of ours went and stayed with us for a little bit on the Central Coast a little while ago, and they said, "Oh, Will, thank goodness I came here and stayed with you for the weekend, because we had a different view of the Central Coast."
Yeah.
Because we thought it was like a Penrith by the Sea or something like that. but it's not. It's like
Yeah.
there's so many different places.
Pockets.
It's some beautiful places, beautiful, surrounded by beaches.
Yeah.
Good people as well, different ethnicities as well. So there's everything there.
Yeah.
And I remember there's a big crime rate in one of the places, and I said, you know what, let's steer away. But on the next suburb, there was the best public school in Australia.
Yeah.
I said, how does that make sense?
Well, then I guess the question becomes, did you go and actually dive into the sea? And we don't know, we don't know what it was.
That's why I raised it.
That's why you raised it?
Yeah. I said, oh my God, no, should have.
But, and I think that's one thing, as somebody who does a lot of research, I've taught at university. I obviously, I've built a business that's based off the back of being able to research and analyze. The one thing I would say to everyone is, if you're doing some of that yourself, the biggest piece of advice I could give is, if you see something that looks out of character, but like, it's an outlier. It's an outlier. Go and investigate. Go and investigate why that might be happening. Because if you just stop there, you might be missing pots of gold, right? You might also be missing, and I'll use a good reference, stockings filled with coal, since we're at the Christmas time, right? You might of course have found something that's very legitimate, and you don't want to be there, but you might also be missing pots of gold because you didn't understand that it's teenagers flogging cheese and bacon rolls from Baker's Delight, So it's, but then I think I guess just to round out what we've been chatting about, this is not an exhaustive list, but we get into the final topic that we're going to talk about today, which is the final piece to really look at before getting into an affordable market would be then understanding, like, what is the state of the housing market itself, right? So, what does the supply of properties look like? And that's a really key one, because often in affordable markets, developers know that, and they may have been buying up massive, massive plots of land to build their big estates, right? And supply is obviously the enemy of price growth, because typically when there's excess supply, demand won't be able to mop that up. It'll take a lot of time, that supply tap, to turn off for the demand to be able to get past that. So really important to understand the supply of properties. But just because there might be a development doesn't necessarily mean, oh, no, we can't go there. Like, yeah, there's 500 or 800 new homes coming on, but that could also be over 15 years. And that could also be on the absolute outskirts where there's not much infrastructure, there's not much employment yet, nobody's really living there. So yeah, people will start to live there, but that's probably not going to change pricing in other parts of the city because it's too far away and it's not really going to have a massive impact, right? So really important to understand the supply. And then it's also really important to understand local norms in property investing, because every city or every town, every area of Australia typically does things a little bit differently, right? And what I mean by that is, you might be looking in one part of Victoria, and then in a completely different part of Victoria, even though they use the same property contracts, they operate differently. And that's just become the market norms. So it's really, really important to understand that, because if you are looking at, entering that market, you want to make sure that you understand how do agents work. How do you make an attractive offer? If you've bought other properties or had other experiences, how does that differ to the way that you've normally done business? Because you might have to change, And I remember in the very early days of Atlas, when we experienced buying in different states and things like that, we came in with a certain point of view, and we had to change, because even though we wanted to do it one way, we couldn't make an entire market fit the way that we wanted to do it, right? So really important to understand that, because it could be just something as simple as, and I've seen this all the time, one market, it's 14 days on a finance clause is standard, right? But then another market, it's 21 days, and they couldn't care less. So imagine if you're in a 21-day market, and now you go to a 14-day market, you're going to get nothing. Yeah, they're just going to laugh you out the door and say, sorry, it's too hard, right? So really important to do that. The third point is a bit more overarching, because it's really not the point of the episode. We've covered some of the really key metrics to understand in an earlier episode, so go and check that out. But it's really important you understand the overall property market trends in that area, right? And you can go and listen to our episode to see some of the different metrics that you might want to look at. But you have to understand, because just because it's an affordable market doesn't necessarily mean that you should be buying there, right? Like the market might not be at the right stage of the cycle. There could be a million and one reasons why it's not the right time to buy. So you can tick off all these things and everything looks good, you know, good infrastructure, good employment, gentrifying.
Where you are in your
Yeah,
investment cycle.
exactly right. Yeah, where you are as well. And then you look at the actual market of where you're looking, and it's like, oh, the property market's just not in a good state, you know. So really important to then understand those local market trends. And then I think finally, you've got to make sure you're across any potential finance issues. So, you know, a big one that I know you'd agree on, like maybe postcode restrictions, like if you're buying in quite a oversupplied place, or maybe an area that's smaller, like maybe it's a small township or something, which, you know, personally, it's high rise. Yeah, I mean, you're probably not going to see high rises in an affordable market, but it's it's still a good point. It's still a good point, right? But just, really important you get across any potential finance issues, because the last thing that you want to happen is you go there, everything looks great, you find a good deal, blah blah blah, and then suddenly you find out the bank's just not going to lend to you, or they're only going to lend you 70% instead of 85%, and you don't have the cash, so you can't do it. Yeah. So that's probably the four big things. Infrastructure, industries of employment, the overall demographics, and then the state of the housing market. Yeah, it is a bit, isn't it? And I think probably going to what you were saying before, like if you're trying to run it yourself, it can be very challenging.
Well, especially when you make start or invest in an affordable market. You have to get it right.
Yeah.
If you don't get it right, it's the first
one. And I think that's a good point, right? Because it's like, well, there's nothing that says it is better or worse than investing in Sydney or Brisbane or anything else. But, you know, it's
real.
You do your DD, right? Exactly right. And you know what? It's a good point. I can't remember if I said it earlier, because I've got it written down here that I meant to emphasize it, but I didn't. I don't know if I did it. I don't remember if I did it. Was all the things that we were just talking about, right? They're the things that you should be doing in any market, like not just an affordable market. You should be doing that in any market whatsoever. But I think the key distinction is, in an affordable market, your margin for error is a lot smaller because, your margin for error is a lot bigger, because if you don't do it right, like the impacts can be a lot more substantial, right? So if you're trying to do it and you don't really have that experience, it can be challenging, right? That's where people tend to get help, right? That's how we help a lot of people. But
the biggest factor is that kind of time them.
Yeah. Absolutely it can. So, well, mate, that's everything. I think done and dusted. I think one of our quicker episodes, to be honest. I think we can bang on a little bit, but I think we actually smashed that one out pretty quickly. Yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope that that you know you're really enjoying this time of the year, getting in, digesting lots of podcasts. If you're loving what we're doing, please make sure drop us the 5 stars on Spotify or Apple or wherever it is that you're listening to, and then, you know, as you're sitting back over this period and you're really thinking about what's next, if you think that it's now time for you to either not make the same mistakes as 2024 and not start your portfolio, or you're ready to maybe fix some mistakes you made in the past, come and have a chat with myself and the team at Atlas Property Group. And we can absolutely help you either start, fix, or continue growing your property portfolio. So you can get us at atlaspropertygroup.com.au. Or if you need some finance help, right? Always a good time. Go and make sure your loans are at good interest rates. Make sure that you're not getting taken for a ride. Maybe you're looking at your next purchase. Go and hit up Will and his team over at Aussie Newtown. You can find both of our contact details in the episode link, as well as the overall show link. But otherwise, guys, we hope you're enjoying this time of the year, and we can't wait to be back very shortly for our next episode.
This is a Piccolo podcast production.